How y'all doing? This is Preacher Man R&B, and this is another Words Wisdom Fridays. This Friday, I'm going to be talking about what it means to speak in tongues and how to speak in tongues in the right way. Now, I'm going to be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 14, and I'm going to do verses 2 through whenever it stops talking about speaking in tongues. But anyway, the reason I'm making this video is because in the Pentecostal church they say it's mandatory to speak in tongues, and if you don't speak in tongues by what they say, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven, and that's not how it is. And to speak in tongues is a spiritual gift. It's not for everybody. It's for certain people. And to speak in tongues, when I read this verse, it's going to be talking about how you need an interpreter to speak in tongues. It's not mandatory for your salvation to speak in tongues. It's a spiritual gift from God, and certain people have this gift. Now, I'm going to start reading, and it's going to start in chapter 14. I'm going to start in verse 2, and I'll tell you when I'm done. It says, "For who speaks in tongues does not speak to man, but to God. For no one understands, but in his spirit he speaks mysteries. But one who prophesies speaks to man for edification and exhortation and consultation. One who speaks in tongues edifies himself, but one who prophesies edifies the church. Now I wish that you all spoke in tongues, but even more that you would prophesy. And greater is the one who prophesies, the one who speaks in tongues, unless he interprets, so that the church may receive edifying. But now, brethren, if I come to you speaking in tongues, what will I profit you unless I speak to you either by the way of revelation, or of knowledge, or of prophecy, or of teaching? Yet even lifeless things either fault nor or harp in producing a sound, if they do not produce the discretion in the tones, how will it be known what is played on the flute or on the harp? For if the bugle produces an indecent sound, who will prepare himself for battle? So also you, unless you utter by the tongue speech that is clear, how will it be known what is spoken? For you will be speaking into the air. There are perhaps a great many kinds of languages in the world, and no kind is without meaning. If then I do not know the meaning of the language, I will be the one who speaks a barbarian, and the one who speaks will be a barbarian to me. So also you, since you are zealous of spiritual gifts, seek abound for the edification of the church." Basically what it's saying, to speak in terms, you need to interpret it or have an interpreter to let people know what you're saying. Because when you're speaking in tongues, you're speaking directly to God, so other people can't understand it. See, what it says to prophesize is to prophesize to the people that's preaching God's word, that's telling people about Jesus. Speaking in tongues is a spiritual gift between you and God. It's a gift that God gave you. It's not for everybody. Just like preaching is not for everybody. Just like doing certain things in the church is not for everybody. Everybody has their set spiritual gift. And with the Pentecostals are saying you have to speak in tongues to be saved and to enter the kingdom of heaven, where that's not the case. To speak in tongues is a spiritual gift, and I just want y'all to understand this. And if somebody tells you the only way you can be in heaven is to speak in tongues, that's not the truth. To get into heaven, you have to sacrifice. You have to accept God's sacrifice for sacrificing His life on the cross. You have to accept God into your heart, and you have to be saved by God's grace. That's the only way into heaven. Now, speaking in tongues, if you got that spiritual gift, great. I'm not saying speaking in tongues is bad, because it's not. You just have to have that spiritual gift. That has to be the gift that God gave you to go out and to further His kingdom. Now, to find out if this is your spiritual gift, pray about it. seek God and His guidance and see what He wants you to do. But as far as the point of only way you're going to get into heaven is by speaking in tongues, that's not true. I hope y'all get something from this. As always, this is Preacher Man RB signing out. Guys, you do Jesus awesome. See y'all next time.